Welcome to the Real Estate Leaders podcast, where I interview real estate leaders of today and those that are rising tomorrow. I'm currently in southwest London outside a full renovation project by Property by Kazy.
You are Property By Kazy.
Man himself in the building, Property By Kazy.
Property presenter, investor, developer. Property by Kazy! Woo!
Or more commonly known as I meet people, they're like, you're that property guy.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing? Welcome to Marble Road.
And have you done many investments as well with network that you already have around you?
I've probably raised investor finance of over £1 million on multiple occasions. It's been returned.
They sent me a really nice message. It'd be like, we still wake up every morning kind of pinching ourselves, like can't believe that we live in a house this nice. When we're buying properties like this that were run down, derelict, weren't mortgageable, yes, we make profit because it's a business. But I would say you need property alongside a cash flowing business as well.
If you're interested in property, don't let the internet trick you. Property isn't different from any other type of business. It's the same thing. Yes, there's higher barriers to entry through capital, but the reality is you can do it.
Let's go take a look inside and see what it really takes to flip property. Hi.
Hello. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. Welcome to Marble Road.
Incredible. I've already given a little introduction to you about you and what you do, but could you kind of give your little intro to the audience?
For sure. So I'm Kaz, or Kazim Ali Balogan, founder of PBK, property investor, developer, educator, and today presenter as well. So how about I take you inside and show you around?
Yes, please. We'd love that. So we're in the property now, and I've seen the before pictures, and you've completely transformed the space and the layout. So where could we get a bit of insight into where it all started? How did we get to where we are now?
So this property I actually purchased in the Savills auctions in 2024. So it's around a 12-month turnaround from completion to completion. And you're right, it was completely different. So purchased as a 1-bedroom flat. And the initial plans were to either just do an internal reconfiguration, so get better use of the space, or to do a complete full refurb with a rear extension. We ended up getting planning for the full refurb and the rear extension. So we did that. We've completely changed the sort of layout. So if you come into this room with me, this room here is now bedroom number 2. When we purchased the property, it was actually the lounge for the property. In terms of changes that we made, we just installed this partition, and behind here is the family bathroom and the ensuite bathroom for what is now the master bedroom. The good thing about just putting in this partition as opposed to moving walls meant that we didn't have to do any party wall stuff. And that would have been really expensive for a property like this with flats either side, plus the freeholders. You would have ended up with 9 to 10 person party wall award, which probably would have added on an extra £10,000 to your cost for the overall project.
And how did you make that decision then between a little cosmetic work to a full reconfiguration?
I think it's all about pound for pound return. So we were looking at, in terms of the internals, we would have been looking at around £600,000 for the GDV, so the end value of the property, with just doing an internal refurb. Now doing the rear extension probably added on an additional, I think it was additional 200 square foot. Now, cost-wise, it's probably cost us an extra £50,000, but because the price per square foot in this area is around £1,000 a square foot, we've added £200,000 worth of value for an expense of 150,000. So for 50,000, so effectively an uplift of 150,000, which is why financially it made sense.
Yeah, and now you started off, you bought this for 430,000.
Yeah.
And GDV now 800,000?
Just under 800,000, like 790.
Wow. And how much profit have you made from this then?
So this one, I'd say after everything, I take into account your refurb cost, your cost of finance, your purchasing costs, like your auction fees. stamp duty, then your holding costs like your gas, water, electricity, council
there's a lot
tax,
that goes into it.
and then your sales costs, legals again, agency fees, but net probably around £170,000 profit.
Insane. And the interior in the space as well is just like absolutely stunning. Who styled this for you?
It was styled by a company called Style and Staged, who do all of our styling and the back end of our interior design. In terms of, I like to be heavily involved in the process. So there were things that we tried out, and we try and really give each individual unit a lot of personality and character. So here we use the Bauwerk limestone paint for a number of reasons. It breathes really well, so it's great for basements, but it also gives more texture, more contrast. And I think ultimately you have to have a design in mind. So we kind of wanted to go quite minimalist, almost very Santorini, Mykonos-esque sort of vibes in the property.
Amazing. Could we continue taking a look
Yeah,
around?
let's go. So if you follow me, so I mentioned, in terms of use of space, you'll notice that the bathroom is slotted between the bedroom 1 and bedroom 2. And that's because bathrooms, kitchens don't require natural light. So you can put them in the middle to maximize space. If you look throughout the property, you'll really see, well, we hope that, the end buyer really enjoys the fact that we put an effort in the design. So whether it's the use of the cast iron style radiators in the unfinished metal, the brush brass on all of the ironmongery, and then using a lot of heritage colors. Like these are like beautiful Victorian buildings. Unfortunately, there wasn't a lot we could retain in this one in terms of coving, ceiling roses, fireplaces, but we did sort of for the front door, as you notice, as you come in, we used like a British racing green.
I love that color,
it kind of is in keeping with the local area. I think as developers, you've got to find a way to stand out but also blend in, and I think
retain like the actual original character and heritage.
Exactly.
We're in another bedroom. Tell us about the design.
So this bedroom, in terms of space-wise, not much actually changed apart from adding in the walk-in wet room. So wet room, I always try and go for a feature wall. I just like the idea of different tones, different materials, contrasting. So it's very much a sort of bronze effect in the feature wall. And then we've got the porcelain, large format style tiles with the full wet room space and the polished brass in terms of finish.
This is stunning.
Thank you. So these bathrooms, all of this stuff was provided us. Tiles were from Brook Interiors, and the bathroom was from Easy Bathrooms. I generally use a lot of the same suppliers, and it's something that people ask me about a lot. So flooring wise, this is a herringbone LVT flooring. Again, I thought works really well. We're kind of back in that 50 shades of grey / beige, which are very popular at the moment. So it works well for the fact that it is a period property. I think you can see in different areas, though we couldn't retain it fully, we kind of kept the flashbacks. So again, the cast iron style radiators going for, although they are UPVC, still going for the sash windows as well. So they're more in keeping with, with the local area.
Yeah, they're very big as well.
They are very expensive as well, sash windows in comparison to casement. And then there's sometimes you can get to include some of your own design. So
what was yours?
I love books, so reading lights are always massively important. I like the idea of still blending more of an industrial feel with the kind of minimalist sort of, Santorini feel, etc.
The walls and the doors.
The walls, exactly. So the walls with the Bauwerk Bone is the name of this paint, and then we matched it on the doors as well, just for that sort of keep it relatively minimalist.
Plays really well, and even the colours with the cushions, it's just the little details that really do matter. And outside space in the Fulham area is very rare as well. Also, it's pretty hard to even get that extra bit of outside space.
And I think that's the importance of local knowledge. So for me, coming in, operating generally more in the southeast or further afield in southwest.
Is that where you started?
Yeah, where, space is a lot cheaper, so you're used to people with big gardens. So in my head, the little outside space was kind of was tiny, and I was like, I don't want to overextend into it. But the actual feedback from buyers was like, and it's got this massive terrace, because you're in an area where it is so rare. And I think that's why it's really important for aspiring developers. You've really got to focus on your patch and understand what the demographic of buyer wants and values in that area.
Exactly. And then on that note then, what was your inspiration for this room?
So this room actually stayed very similar. So the door was where the door was. All we did was add the ensuite behind the family bathroom.
Okay.
In terms of space, again, it's all about maximizing space. So with staging the property, we don't generally put wardrobes and like larger items. Just want to show people where a bed can go, how it can work, but make it as functional as possible. Like I'm an avid reader, so I love reading lights. So I think there's something I always try and, include in projects. And then, you have to remember, realistically, for your property to sell, it has to take nice pictures because that's the funnel. It goes on Rightmove amongst loads of other properties. There has to be areas that take really nice pictures. So loads of these little viewpoints where you've got the internal, the sort of internal terrace with the bespoke aluminium door in the anthracite grey, and like these little snapshots, they're gonna photograph really well. So I think creating spaces that look good has been really important. Also using a variety of materials, tones and textures. So the feature walls in the shower rooms, the bathrooms.
This ensuite is stunning.
Thank you.
The gold, I just love, like you said, the textures, like the way that they kind of balance with each other. The marble, is that marble?
Yeah, so that is a porcelain. But I think it's really easy to just be like, just to go simple. But the thing is, I think you have to stand out in this market. It's a market where, if we're honest with ourselves, it's very much so more of a buyer's market. There's a lot of properties online, a lot of competition from sellers, and there's not as many good buyers out there. So you've got to kind of, for me, I sort of follow the Prada, the Louis Vuitton, the Gucci model in that, look, we're not trying to do discounts. We're trying to create a product that is above the market norm. And so we can demand higher prices. And then it's a case of if you want it, you pay the money. And if you don't, you're not our target demographic.
Yeah. So you're enticing that appeal as well, thinking about the appeal of what would attract the buyer. Yeah, the little things definitely do matter, and it looks like you've done that so far in this property.
Yeah, it's been some things that I love, like even little things like, for example, something we tried in this, like painting the doors the same colour as the walls. I think, again, in terms of it feeling like, my vision for this property was that whole 50 shades of beige. And I think that's what we kind of delivered through the tones and textures we've used throughout.
Yeah, and you got that industrial vibe as well.
So with that, kind of with some of the more metallic feel alongside the softer tones, I think it does create that contrast that, we found and had good feedback, and which is why we went under offer very quickly. A lot of the time when you see sort of staging and people that maybe use stagers who just rent furniture, it's very much a case of, just take this is what we've got. Do you either take pack A, B or C? But when you work with companies who actually buy bespoke furniture based on your development, all of the furnishing, the staging that's been used to dress this property is specifically for this unit. And it means because we own it, on the back end now, we can use that to negotiate with our buyers. So we can actually say, look, you know what, you wanted to pay X amount, we want X. If you meet us at this point, we're happy to throw in the furniture. So it kind of, you've got to give yourself points to negotiate.
And you found a buyer for that as well. Do they want the furniture?
They're coming actually tomorrow. So initially they said they didn't, and now they've come back and said, actually, you know what, can we make you an offer?
Fingers crossed.
Exactly, because but the thing is, realistically, you own the furniture now. So where I've constantly got projects, I've got another one down the road that's just completing. We can always relocate, the lion's share of this furniture and reuse it, and then we don't have to pay for it again.
And I do want to keep talking technical, but I also really want to see the rest of the property.
Okay, cover then. Let's go. Yeah.
Ooh, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is just beautiful.
Thank you. So a lot actually changed in here. So in terms of where I'm standing now, if I was to put my arm sort of there and there, that was actually what was the old family bathroom. And then beyond that would have been the kitchen. You've now got a really good size. I think you're probably around 30 square meters of open plan kitchen living space. Again, more of a heritage colour with the navy.
Love that colour.
I think quite liked it, sort of contrasting against my 50 shades of beige. I decided to get, a little bit braver with the colour we went for. Worktops are the quartz solid stone worktops, which I think it's really important to find a balance of where to spend money. So the kitchen is actually from Howden's. It's relatively, in terms of a middle ground in terms of price point, but then complementing that with the
appliances.
the appliances, with the worktops, just to have a budget and a feel that's in keeping with our NGDV, but also making sure we don't have to push it up too high and can still make it attractive for oncoming buyers.
Lovely. And do you kind of have a particular colour scheme with every project, or is it a type of vision that leads per project?
I think yeah, like I massively utilize I guess like hive mentality. So actually on this kitchen, I actually put it on my Instagram and was like, look, these are the 3 different designs I've got.
Yeah.
Which one is your favorite? Did the same thing in the group chat of the PBK community.
So you just get
and just went with, because I understand you can't be good at everything, and getting that feedback from other people, and then just being able to integrate little things like like the coffee machine, all integrated appliances,
I see that all the time.
dishwasher, the undermounted hob as well with the integrated extractor.
So like kind of be flowing.
Yeah, so because it goes straight down, it means you don't have to have the big extractor, and you can have more of a feature light, which I enjoy. And then it opens up very nicely from an entertainment space in that you can cook, face your guests with the breakfast bar behind as a seating area as well.
It's a breakfast bar.
So obviously open plan kitchen, living room area. Now for me, it's always going to be my favorite part, just because I'm a sucker for natural light. So we've got the windows, we've got the bespoke aluminium door, we've got 2 skylights, another fixed panel, and then the bifold. So a lot of natural light.
Abundance of natural light.
Exactly that. So this extension actually is a full extension that was done under planning, because there's no permitted development rights or PD for flats.
And could you tell the audience what permitted development rights is?
So permitted development are when you can actually you have to just tell the council what you're doing, as opposed to ask for permission. So they're rights that are allowed. So for example, on a detached house, you, for example, can do a double-story rear extension under PD. So you don't have to ask, as long as you set that in 2 meters from the boundary of your property. For example, on a house like a terraced house or a semi, you can do a 3-meter rear extension under PD. You can do a loft conversion with a dormer. So effectively, there are types of additions you can do to your property that you don't have to ask for. You just have to tell them effectively that you're going to do it. They've been extended further as well with prior approval. So you can do larger extensions on certain types of properties with, along with like neighbours, for example. So it is important to understand the types of things you can do, because all investments carry risk.
Yeah.
But if, however, you can mitigate your risk because you can do the works under permitted development, it means you take out the what if factor, so you can effectively maybe do more with less.
And to clarify, you did have to...
So for this one, we had to go for full planning. But what I mentioned earlier on was that it was really great that, worst case scenario, if we didn't get planning, the deal still worked at doing an internal refurb without.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that's really great. And you can have different types of plans. So we had a plan for a smaller extension, a larger extension, but once you've got planning, they can't take it away from you.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's good to maybe start with a smaller scheme, get that as a guarantee, and then go for a more ostentatious scheme. So I've got, stuff that's in planning at the moment, where we've currently got planning to convert a house into 3 flats. We've then gone back in to actually say, no, can we actually get 5 units now?
Oh, okay. That's quite a smart way of tactically negotiating.
I think it's just understanding your risk tolerance. Some people are like, no, I'm going straight in for 5 flats, don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm like, look, I'd rather know that I'm safe first,
steady pace,
and then ask for a little bit more. Yeah, I'm the tortoise in the race. I'm not the hare. But overall, design-wise, I liked it. It's quite an interesting finish in that we've got the flat roof, the pitched roof. You can see here's where we've got the crank beam. Now we've got something called a box frame. So it means that you have a steel that goes up, across, down, and into the ground.
Okay.
And there's actually a post behind this wall here. So rather than having a post that just stuck out and looked like an afterthought, it's why we built up the entire media wall.
I love that media wall.
Thank you.
It's the little things, absolutely.
It's little details. And then obviously we then extend out onto the outside space that you touched on. In areas like this, you have both the internal, sort of internal terrace, as well as your private terrace at the rear of the property.
So you've not got 1 but 2 bits of outside space.
Not 1 but 2.
You're spoiling them. Can we take a look outside?
Yeah, for sure. So little outside space. I think just from doing it, I've realized that the importance of outside space post 2020, but also that flow. Like we've done events here where we've had 40, 50 people and it's not felt crowded because you have that inside outside living feel to it, which is why I think it's really important. If you do have a budget, we spent the extra money to put the cement boards up, to render the sides, some of the older walls, have the linear fencing to create the privacy. And then I think details are really important, but we wanted it to look original. So these are reclaimed original bricks and a lot more in keeping with the rest of the building, which overall, when buyers come, that, you know, they feel like they're not buying a new build.
Yes.
And there are so many new builds on the market. But if you are repurposing, you know, Victorian period properties, you actually want to capitalize on how you are different from the rest of the market.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of people do buy into that heritage and that character that period properties do offer. So you've done a really great job there adding in this original bricks.
Thank you.
It flows perfectly. And then with this terrace here, because you made this extension, but that's not your terrace. So what's going on here?
It's not. So previously there was actually a set of stairs coming down from an old sort of rickety terrace.
Yeah.
And obviously it was a case of creating a win-win. So we were like, look, let's get rid of those stairs because you don't actually have any right to use them anyway. You've got a smaller terrace that's quite damaged. What we can do is on our new flat roof, as part of our planning applications, we'll do it jointly. We'll create a roof terrace for you.
For the flat above?
For the flat above. Now we split the cost of that, but that actually massively increased their flat. But it's all about finding like mutual wins and good working relationships. Like I'd say when people talk about being a property developer, I'd say one of the most important factors is working out how you can find the wins for all of your stakeholders involved, whether that be your freeholders, your leaseholders, you know, your lenders, but make everything work where possible for everyone.
That's very considerate of you, because now they're just blessed with a nice terrace.
Exactly, but what that also does is them having a nice terrace, and part of the pre-commencement conditions were that those balustrades had to be 1.7 meters tall, glazed and frosted, which means they get privacy, but there's also no overlooking for this flat, which again is a win.
Thank you so much for showing me around. But guys, I've got more in store for you. I'm going to be quizzing Kazy a little bit more so you can get to know a bit more about his journey. I know you thought this tour was great, but there's a lot more gems for us to discover. So should we go inside?
Let's go.
So I've shown you around this incredible project that Kazy has absolutely transformed. Like guys, the before pictures looks nothing like how it looks right now. This is just incredible. So I want to delve a bit more into what Kazy does. So Kazy, I've been following you for quite many years now, actually. So it's been incredible, like watching the journey. But for any viewers that might not be as familiar, do you mind just giving us a quick bite-sized insight into how you started in the property world?
Yeah, so as I said, I'm a property investor and developer. I think it's quite important to differentiate between the two. Somebody invests generally just buys existing cash flow and assets in the same way somebody would invest in potentially stocks and shares, whereas a developer, even on a small scale, like with projects like this, is looking at how they can add value. I've been doing that for over the last decade, so 10 years plus. And I've done everything from refurbs to new builds to residential conversions, commercial conversions, HMOs, rent to rent, Airbnb, and probably everything in between.
So what was the starting point? What was the first thing you did?
My first ever project was actually, ironically, something very, very similar to this, like without the rear extension. But it was a 1 to 2 bedroom conversion. So it was buying a property that had a separate kitchen where I could see, you know, we could create an open plan kitchen, living room, create a second bedroom, and without increasing the footprint of the building, still add value. I think it's an important takeaway is you don't always have to reinvent the wheel. Things that I did sort of 13 years ago still are very prevalent in today's market and still can, you know, make you a lot of money.
No, and then with like, if you was to advise someone then that was just starting now in the industry, because there's definitely going to be viewers who have no clue where to begin, what would you advise, even though every circumstance is different?
No, for sure. I think that the starting point is definitely do your own personal kind of SWOT analysis, work out your own strengths and weaknesses, work out what it is you want from property. Do you want cash flow? Do you want to increase your working capital? And then look at the resources you have to hand. Do you currently have funds? If you don't, unfortunately, flipping properties is quite high. There's a lot of high barriers to entry. So you may go down the deal sourcing route. You may go down rent to rent. You may go down getting into a professional, you know, property, whether it's an apprenticeship or job role as well.
if you maybe have access to capital, then it's looking at, well, what is going to work best for you based on what you need. Like if you need cash flow, then maybe HMO conversions could be good because they help to blend add-in value with also creating a good level of cash flow and yield as well.
Wow. And what did your world look like before property then? Was you...
So before property, I went to university. I started at Brunel. I didn't finish at Brunel. I did actually drop out. But then I actually went back a year or so later, studied economics. I worked for a very limited point in finance, but it wasn't really for me. But simultaneously to doing that, I've always been an entrepreneur. So ran a business, starting with a shisha business, sort of pop-up shisha business.
Wow, that's like so different to what you're doing now.
Yeah. But I think the thing is, there's so many transferable skill sets from whether it's from business, whether it's from work, that you can use the work, really well. So from going to university, even the idea of not so much what you learn, but the soft skills of actually being able to do work when nobody's making you do it. Because when you're an entrepreneur, nobody tells you have to get up in the morning. Nobody tells you have to make things happen, but you have to have that self-motivation. And I think the concept of going to university, like when it's not like college, where no one's saying, well, where are you? What are you doing? You actually have to do it yourself. It's definitely helped me in terms of as a learning curve.
And do you feel like this is something that you would have just fallen into then, or was you inspired by a particular person to start it?
I think, my first business with the shisha business, we went from just doing it at venues to having our own location, but we didn't own the premises. And not owning the premises limited the level of expansion amount that I could invest in my own business and invest in myself. So I think that was a real light bulb moment of like, whatever I do next, I have to own, because I want to be able to create that vehicle that can provide wealth for the longer term. So I would say the idea of ownership, and it's probably our most familiar type of ownership, in terms of owning a home, it being very tangible, and there being a demand because it's a need rather than a want.
Yes, exactly. So did you kind of see it as our whole lives have revolved around property? Everyone needs property, so why not just dip my toe and start investing?
And I think it works. Like, I'm not naturally like a creative. Like, I was never the person that excelled in art or design or graphics or anything like that. But it was an opportunity for me to be artistic about that skill set. So taking, as you said, like a really rundown home and transforming it into something that, was going to be somebody's dream home is a process that you get that back end enjoyment out of. So when certain things don't go right, when you have builders that mess up, when you have solicitors that are not replying, you still have that big win at the end of the project.
And what would you say is your best project that you've done then? Is it these type of things that you're doing at the moment? Something like Mirabelle Road? Yeah,
so look, I really enjoy these types of properties. There's two that I always remember for different reasons. One of them was, I think, my second flat conversion, which is so we bought a residential home and converted it into 4 flats. But because it was 4 flats, you get to both name and number the building. So effectively was able to name that building after like my late grandmother, which is now my daughter's name. So they've got like Khadija House,
that's so nice and sentimental.
Which is something that's really cool to do. And then I think outside of that, it was a project out sort of further afield, so sort of on the borders of London to Surrey, in an area called Epsom. And that was it was a really rundown cottage called the Rosebank that I bought. Did a rear extension, turned it from a 2-bed to a 3-bed, but still installed a lot of the design features I would have used when operating in areas like this, like Chelsea, Fulham, Battersea, etc. So I had like glass balustrades, a freestanding bath in the bathroom.
Nice.
And I got a message from the buyer, because we only sold, I say only, it's still a lot of money, we sold it for like 450 or 475,000. And I got a message on Instagram, like I don't know, like 4 months after selling it, and it was like, "Hi, we bought the Rosebank," and naturally you think, "What did I do wrong? What are you going to complain about?" But they were literally just like, there was something they wanted to check, and they wanted to know like if I had a copy of something to register a guarantee for one of the appliances. They sent me a really nice message. It'd be like, "We still wake up every morning, kind of pinching ourselves, like can't believe that we live in a house this nice." So as much as property owners, developers, landlords do get quite a bad rap. When we're buying properties like this that were run down, derelict, weren't mortgageable, yes, we increase the value of them, and yes, we make profit because it's a business. But at the same time, you are repurposing homes that otherwise were, unusable. So there is kind of a renewable and I guess almost like a responsible element of repurposing properties like this.
Absolutely, and then that positively would drive the market because you've got people that are looking for spaces that they can call home, and they've got that design appeal like we've seen throughout the place as well.
And also from like a sustainability standpoint, a lot of you've got like when you look at carbon credits, like they've already been spent because they did it when they built the property. So you repurposing it actually makes it quite a green project to a degree.
So would you say on the sustainability element, and also would you say you're quite strong on that as well, like when it comes to looking at a property?
I wouldn't say like as a top level requirement I'm like green is where I want to go.
Yeah.
But just because I tend to focus on refurbs rather than new builds, again, you're taking assets where effectively, I guess the carbon footprint element has already been expended. So, you're repurposing rather than rebuilding, you're renewing rather than recreating. So I think it probably is more sustainable in that sense.
And would you say property is the smartest investment people can make, or is it just worth it?
This is probably going to be quite a unpopular opinion around property investors.
Yeah.
But I would say if you look at some of the biggest holders of property assets, what you'll generally find is that they started investing in property when they were already rich. So when you look at your Alan Sugars, Richard Bransons, Anthony Joshua's, they all have very sizable 8-9 figure property portfolios. But what you'll also see is they reinvested money that they made from investing in themselves or their own business, whether it be Anthony Joshua and his boxing career, whether it be Richard Branson and his various businesses. But I think, property is a really good way of diversifying your investment portfolio. But I would say you need property alongside a cash flowing business as well.
Yeah, well, would you say it's better to look at it from that perspective rather than thinking, let me throw all my eggs into one basket straight away into the property market?
I mean, you can diversify different types of property investment, but what I would say is that I would just consider how property is going to work for you. The thing, I did a podcast recently, with a guy called Savage Dan, and he was talking about investing in crypto.
Yeah.
And basically his investment going from £150,000 to £6 in the space of 2 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Now, with property, the reality is if you bought a detached house and you completely messed it up, you even knocked the property down. So you bought for £500,000, you messed up the house. The land value alone is still probably going to be £250,000.
Yeah.
If there's half a house on the building, maybe that's going to be so. It's a safer investment in terms of where your money can go to. You can't the value of a company. I do some angel investing as well. And I've had some investments that have effectively gone to zero because we invested in a club. The club lost its license. It's now no longer can viably trade. So I think I like it as property for me is often my kind of I can't go broke fund.
Okay, I like that.
So if I know I've got 5 homes, each of them have got 100, 200k equity in them, that even if I mess it all up, I can go back to that war chest and be like, right, I'm going to have to sell this one or do X, Y, or Z and start again. If I was able to start with the tens of thousands, I know that I can definitely start again with significantly more.
I really like that perspective. So now that we're sat down and feeling a bit more cozier now in the lounge area, I'd love to delve more deeper into your life before property. So what was you like growing up?
I think I was all right. I probably feel like we would all say that. No, ironically, I was super quiet. I want friends will be like, yeah, Kaz didn't speak. I thought he was really weird. I was quite introverted. I didn't like going to networking or that many social events a lot of the time.
What popped the bubble?
I think there's a number of things. I think you realize that
it doesn't really matter if you call yourself an introvert or call yourself an extrovert.
That's true.
Like sometimes if you want to be fed, you can't have a closed mouth. And sometimes if you want to learn, you've got to know when to shut up. And I think the argument of I'm an introvert, I'm an extrovert, if you want to be successful, you don't have the luxury to just pick and choose who you are and like that's your excuse. You have to get out of your comfort zone, and sometimes you've got to talk to people when ideally you wouldn't want to, and sometimes you've got to listen when really you've got loads to say.
So that was you when you were younger, but more introverted?
Yeah, like a lot more introverted, a lot more, I think I've always been very methodical, like quite a deep thinker, like an overthinker in that.
Observing.
Yeah. Like I grew up, like I listened to a lot of like 5 Live and LBC, like I love conversations, like that was the way that I learned. Like I've not been somebody who was really necessarily loved, you know, reading, and whilst I was quite good in school, not massively academic, and I think that's from being like dyslexic, but we spoke about it when we talked about you know, when people should invest and how they should know what to do. And I say like I always hark back to that old business principles, like, you know, the SWOT analysis, like understanding who you are and what your strengths and weaknesses are.
Yeah.
You understand how to navigate and make things work for you. So for example, being dyslexic, one thing you learn very on is that it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
And you get further with help. Whereas if you're not, like, it's almost a case of, oh, well, if you can't do it, you just shouldn't do it. So I think understanding how you operate and that it's not going to be the same as everybody else.
Yeah, and that applies to like day-to-day life as well as business as well. So, and like based on like being able to ask for help, what did you have a good team around you when you were like kind of getting into the property career, and even before that, like what kind of business venture was you into before property?
So pre-property, like my first business was like a shisha business. And again, I think from a business perspective, you've got to find something that you enjoy. So when a holiday was like, oh, the shisha stuff's all right, invested a bit of money and turned like something into, it was like, you know, a £500 investment into something that was making, you know, good like couple of £1,000 a day when we were doing events, and then had our own location.
So it was mobile at first. So you was going to different events.
We were like, we were just like having friends that, you know, particularly while at university, a lot of friends that are doing events, they're promoters, etc.
Yeah.
We'd be like, look, how can we get involved? How can we create like a USP for them doing the event, for the venue itself, but also make sure that us as a business were effectively remunerated. In terms of people around me, I feel like, you know, I've been massively beneficial in terms of my friend circle. Like, so a friend of mine that, you know, he runs his own architectural firm now, and I've known him since I was 15. So we've known each other for sort of, share my age, but 20 odd years. Like my my accountant, I've known since I was 11. So I've known each other for sort of, you know, again, 20 plus years as well. So a lot of these people that I work alongside, and my dad, like my dad's a fully qualified solicitor in the conveyancing space. So again, use the resources that you have. Everyone's got to pay £500 to, you know, review a legal pack. Really, I've just got to take my dad and maybe get him some suya or some jollof, and he's gonna, you know, he's gonna go over the pack for me for free. So using my resources.
Oh, I love that. And have you done many like investments as well with the capital of your network that you already have around you?
Yes, I mean, like in terms of raising capital, I've probably raised investor finance of over £1 million.
Wow.
Like on multiple occasions, it's been returned. But a lot of those investors were people who already could kind of see and know what I was doing. So they weren't cold lead investors. I think people always underestimate the value of their network. And it might be your auntie, the grandma, the cousin that you're thinking, I don't think they have money, but people are scared to ask. So I definitely think if you are looking to raise funds, and at the point that you're capable to deliver on the funds that you've raised, make sure that the people that already know, like, and trust you are aware of the opportunities of potentially working with you.
Yeah, that's true. Like, people really do underestimate that. Just ask your auntie, are they looking to help you support your new business? Like, it's just about proposing that question.
And particularly when we talk about the property space, like, these are going to be people, whether, you know, you're part of the Windrush generation, whether you're part of, you know, maybe people coming over from West Africa, sort of a generation after that. They're people that are going to have seen the benefit of owning property, people that were buying properties for £30,000-40,000 that are now worth £500,000. So they're going to understand that, you know, the value of investing, but maybe they feel like the market's moved beyond them. So if you can bring the expertise and they can bring the funds, it's an opportunity for potentially a good business relationship.
That's a big tip there, guys. Go and ask your auntie. You never know what could come from it. And also on topic of that, did you grow up in London or was you born in the UK?
I grew up in Southeast London, so sort of around the Crystal Palace area.
Nice, yeah.
It's nice now. At the time I grew up there, it wasn't.
A lot.
Yeah, so Crystal Palace like was voted like best place to live in London, like 2022 and 2023, whereas previously it wasn't the nicest.
Changed a lot, and to be fair, the prices there are actually not bad still. Like in Norwood, South Norwood
so South
area.
Norwood's decent. Crystal Palace is actually quite expensive now. Same with like East Dulwich. Peckham's expensive, Brixton's expensive. All these areas that previously weren't. But
gentrification.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I grew up there. Majority of my cousins grew up in Nigeria.
Oh, you're Nigerian?
On my dad's side, mum's side, they grew up in the UK.
Fully Nigerian?
No, Nigerian and English.
Nigerian and English.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, like, you know, off the back of that, a lot of kind of West African values installed in terms of, you know, work rate, in terms of sort of just the respect and what have you. But I think, you know, knowing that your parent, or my dad's a first generation migrant, hearing the stories of him working on a marketplace whilst being a mini cab driver, whilst going to university, I think that kind of hustle, hard work mentality was always instilled in me.
Yeah, so you've got that role model to look up to.
Yeah, and the same with like, look, my mum, she was very much somebody who worked for passion. So my mum worked in schools for 30 plus years. Before that, she worked in youth centres in Brixton.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, like my entire family has always worked. And so that's like, I got my first job at 15. I worked in Primark and then worked in Phones for You. So up until, whilst I haven't had a job for over 15 years, and as soon as I could work, I did. So I understood again the importance of showing up, the importance of doing your role, and every job that I've ever had, I think I've learned from massively. So like, in terms of soft skills, in terms of sales, in terms of building relationships.
And leading on from that as well, because I know you've got a lot of inspiration from your network around you. I know you are inspiring people now. So you've got your own community, Property By Kazy community. So could you tell us a bit about that, inspiring the next gen?
Yeah, so look, I mean, the PBK community is I definitely say it is transgenerational. We've got people as young as 20 and as old as like, you know, and it's not older, it's not young, but like mid 60s. So our age range is massive, and it's more about, as opposed to next generation of property developers, it's just helping people that feel they need a helping hand. The people that, like, you know, you look at and maybe you want to take your next step, but you want to take it with confidence, take it with the support of a network of hundreds of years of collective experience, of the power team. So you don't have to go out there and kiss frogs. You start with the right architect, the right solicitor, the right builders.
So in the community, if someone wanted to invest, do they use the same in-house?
Yeah, so they get to use
all.
So like, for example, if I, you know, give examples like, you know, people maybe even somebody doesn't have the funds to do it themselves. They meet a JV partner in the community.
Oh, great.
They then use our solicitor. They maybe recommended a deal through our in-house deal sources. They were maybe, the designs were done by our architect. The finance was raised by our broker. Like, you know, even down to the property is sold by our in-house agents. So it's very holistic and full circle in terms of providing the support, and that was really what underpins setting up the community. I thought, what would I have needed starting out, and how can I provide that for people that, you know, are reaching out to me saying, can I get mentorship, can I shadow you?
So then you created that space for people to be able to experience that. That's awesome. And have they seen projects like this as well? Yeah.
So we run like bi-weekly Zoom calls where we go over, where people can ask questions, and we also have like sessions from experts. So again, I buy a lot from auctions. We had one of the head of Savills come and do a talk about buying at auctions.
Yes.
We have architects talking about planning and understanding it. We have accountants talking about how to best formulate, you know, your company structure. But then also we have monthly site visits where you come down to either my sites or members get to showcase their own sites. It's an opportunity for people to build their own sort of personal brand as well.
That's a lot of value. And on the topic of auctions as well, just off camera earlier, we were talking a bit about that process and what it entails. So if you're interested in taking that first step or expanding your portfolio via the auction route. Let you guys get a little sneak peek into that, because we did actually end up recording that unintentionally. And like with the timeline, relating to what you just said, from the timeline of engagement to you now coming towards completion, was there any challenges that you've kind of experienced within that space?
It's like you knew my challenge, because my challenges actually occurred ironically in this particular development in this room.
Okay.
You know, like they always recommend personal recommendations, and we needed some extra hands on deck because we were running multiple projects. Was recommended a carpenter by a friend, not going to name him, but you know who you are. Exactly that. Long story short, he turned up, like, one of my other contractors, like, I think this guy's drunk, or like under the influence, like first day at work.
No way.
So I was kind of like, okay, I trust the other guy that I've been working with him for over a decade. So I just said, look, like, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to retain you. And I think that's the importance of, like, you know, you fire fast, because in that one day that he was here, he'd managed to drill through not only a water pipe, but also the mains gas pipe.
No.
So which then obviously we were able to quickly
So he turned up drunk or what?
Yeah, he's either drunk or incompetent or whatever the case may be. But either way, I think the importance of obviously having people that actually care about the success of your project, that are going to say something's not right here, and then acting quickly. So all his work of putting down the plyboards to level the floor, we actually undid, and which is why we realised that, you know, actually that's why the water pressures grew up. That's why the boiler's not working at the moment. But you can imagine, we're fortunate we're on the ground floor. Imagine you were on a first floor. You've now leaked into your neighbours downstairs. They could have £100 a square metre, you know, hardwood flooring that you've now got to replace. So I think it's just the importance of, if you, like, you know, pay cheap, you often pay twice.
Yeah. What's your strategy then moving forward now? Like, are you wanting to scale more with this type of model, or?
Yeah, so definitely. So earlier in the year, we've like provisionally recruited a project manager, just from a scaling perspective, being able to run more projects simultaneously. I think we've got some bigger projects this year in terms of the flat conversions. So delivery of about 18 new homes over in Southeast London. So haven't done as many of these, but realistically have been saying we want to get to a point where we're doing one a month, which means you need, project managers. I think when we bought this one, we bought 3 or 4 at auction on the same day.
Wow. And with that strategy of auction, do you feel like it's more straightforward rather than buying as normal on the market? Like, there's less risk of getting gazumped and stuff like that?
Do you know my issue when people ask me questions like this? I'm a big fence sitter. So I'm going to give you the pros and cons of each. I think some people always say, do it my way, and that's the only right way. Auctions are good for a number of reasons. They're good because you get very quick responses in terms of, if the auction's on Tuesday, you've done your due diligence, you've seen the property, you've done all of your numbers. The second you either win or lose, you know where you are. So you're either proceeding with that property or you're not. And you exchange at that point. So you have that degree of certainty, which is good from a clarity perspective. And because there's now so many auctions at the moment with, like, for example, if you look at Savills, if you look at Alsops, if you look at Bernard Marcus, they're generally listing anywhere from 100 to 200 properties every month. There's a lot of properties that come online and a lot of opportunities. So you can move quickly and with speed. I guess the downside is that you have less time to do due diligence. You have additional purchasing costs like auction fees.
Yeah, is that what percentages would people be likely expect if they wanted to do that?
Typically, there is a buyer's premium of around £1,000 at these auction houses. However, what you'll find is, in most cases, when you view the special conditions, and the special conditions are where the contract deviates from the standard sales contract, is where the sellers will be putting in clauses that will say the buyer will pay the seller's fees. And the seller's fees are generally around 1.5% to 2% plus VAT. So for a property like this, say for example 2% plus VAT, you're maybe looking at an extra £10,000. And that £10,000, you're You know, if you were lucky enough to get a mortgage, if you had a longer term or on a bridging loan, the lender's not going to pay for that fee. So that's actually direct cash that will come out of your pocket that you need to make sure you consider.
Right. And then when it comes to raising capital, although you've been doing this for years and you've got lots of things on your portfolio, but for someone that's wanting to start out, would you recommend going down the auction route? If so, how would they do that?
I think that I think in terms of specifically, I would have to have a conversation with somebody specifically based on their scenario if they should do it. Because even if you haven't done it before, you can buy in your experience. You pay for a solicitor to do your legal pack review before purchasing, which means that effectively they're responsible for making sure that the property almost is proceedable in that case. You could pay a builder to come out or a surveyor to come out and do a survey of the property on one of the open viewing days as well to make sure that you understand your costs, you understand any issues.
So you're getting that power team in before the bidding process even starts.
Exactly. The downside is obviously that you pay that money regardless. So regardless of win, lose or draw, you still committed that money. So there is that expense. Also, you touched on obviously being newer and if you're raising funds, one thing I would say is, and this is something that a lot of people don't do, if you're raising funds from me to buy a property, you would have had to do your AML and KYC, so your anti-money laundering and know your client checks with your solicitors. But bearing in mind, I'm giving you a significant portion of the funds, I would also need my proof of funds validated, and they wouldn't be able to proceed with your lending options and also proceed with you as a solicitor until that's been done. So I would definitely recommend you do all of your AML checks with either yourself or any investor way before you get to a point where you're bidding at auction.
Okay, because that can delay the process.
Yeah, and sometimes, if people for whatever reason, can't prove in a short term where the funds are from, you've only got 28 days generally at auction to complete. And if you don't complete, you lose your 10% deposit. Wow. Which in this property would have been £43,000.
So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. You've had an invaluable tour of one of Kazy's latest projects here in Southwest London. Such a nice prime area to have an investment which has doubled in value over the past year. And as well as that, been able to get an insight into what Kazy has done growing up and how he managed to actually get himself to where he is. So I hope you really enjoyed this episode. And before we wrap up, do you have any gems to share with the audience?
I would say, look, if you're interested in property, don't let the internet trick you. Property isn't different from any other type of business. It's the same thing. Can you provide a product for a good price and make a margin? Yes, there's higher barriers to entry through capital, but the reality is you can do it. You might need support, whether it's my community, whether it's somebody else, but I see countless people that couldn't believe where they are if they look back 12 months ago, and it's all about taking those first steps.
Take action today. And your socials, where can people find you?
So Kazim Ali Balogan on LinkedIn, Property by Kazy, so Kazy on Instagram, same on YouTube. There's hundreds of hours of content on both. Feel free, do the deep dive.
He's got an incredible podcast.
Yeah, PBK podcast as well. We're on episode 100 plus, so again, loads more to watch.
Thank you so much for having me around this home. I honestly feel so grateful to be here. Really appreciate it. And guys, make sure you stay tuned for the next episode where I'll also be interviewing further real estate leaders as well as those that are rising in the space. So stay tuned. See you in a bit.
Peace.